Just imagine a world where the continents have smashed together into a scorching, unlivable desert, and the very oxygen we breathe is slowly vanishing from the atmosphere. This isn't a distant alien planet. This is the unavoidable future of Earth. Today, we are looking at what happens to our world after the Ice Age's end and the map of the Earth is rewritten forever. Over the span of 1 million years, the Earth begins to look genuinely alien compared to today. Multiple Ice Age cycles have carved new landscapes. Species that exist today are gone, replaced by evolutionary descendants adapted to a changed world. And the continents have moved far enough that their positions are measurably, visibly different. But the real geography change is still coming. The African continent is tearing itself apart. The East African Rift System, a network of geological fractures running from the Afar Triangle in Ethiopia all the way down through Tanzania and Mozambique, is not a metaphor. It is an active rift zone where two sections of the African plate are pulling away from each other at a rate of a few millimeters per year. Today, it has produced the Great Rift Valley, one of the most biologically significant landscapes on Earth and very likely the cradle of human evolution. In roughly 5 to 10 million years, the rift will have spread far enough that the Horn of Africa and the eastern portion of the continent will separate completely from the main body of Africa, forming a new island continent. The Indian Ocean will flood in, and there will be a new sea where the rift now sits. This is how ocean basins are born. The Atlantic Ocean started exactly this way, as a rift between what was once a single supercontinent. Over millions of years, the rift widened, flooded, and became an ocean 3,000 miles wide. Meanwhile, the Mediterranean Sea is in the process of closing. Africa is slowly moving northward, colliding with Europe. The Alps are rising as a result of this collision. The same process that built the Himalayas when India collided with Asia roughly 50 million years ago. In another 50 million years, the Mediterranean will largely be gone, replaced by a mountain range that will dwarf the Alps. Australia, meanwhile, is moving northward at roughly 7 centimeters per year, fast by geological standards. In about 50 million years, it will begin colliding with Southeast Asia, forming new mountain ranges and fundamentally altering ocean circulation patterns in the Pacific and Indian Oceans. Ocean circulation matters enormously. The arrangement of continents determines how ocean currents flow, which determines where heat is distributed across the planet, which determines climate patterns, rainfall, and habitability for every living thing on Earth. Every time the plates rearrange, the climate rearranges. Every time the climate rearranges, life rearranges. In 50 million years, the evolutionary descendants of today's animals, whatever they are living on a planet whose continents, oceans, and climate are fundamentally different from ours. But they are still recognizably Earth organisms. They still breathe oxygen. They still drink liquid water. The basic conditions for complex life are still intact. That will not always be the case because about 200 million years from now, all of this drift arrives at a destination. All roads, all plates lead to one place. Earth has had supercontinents before. Roughly 300 million years ago, all of Earth's land masses were merged into a single supercontinent, Pangaea. Before that, there was Rodinia, about 1 billion years ago. Before that, other supercontinents whose names are known only to specialists. The supercontinent cycle is one of Earth's most fundamental rhythms. Roughly every 300 to 500 million years, the continents come together and then they break apart again. The next supercontinent has already been modeled by geologists. Most models predict it will form somewhere between 200 and 350 million years from now. Some call it Pangaea Proxima. Some call it Amasia because in several of the models, it is the Americas and Asia that collide first over the closing Arctic Ocean, and Africa and Australia eventually join them. The formation of a supercontinent has dramatic consequences for life. When all land is concentrated in one place, the interior of that landmass becomes extremely dry, far from any ocean moisture. The climate of a supercontinent is harsher than anything on our fragmented Earth. Seasonal temperature swings become extreme. Large portions of the interior become hot, arid desert. The oceans also restructure. One large ocean surrounds the supercontinent. Marine life is profoundly affected as the shallow coastal seas, the most biologically productive marine environments, disappear where continents merge. Every major mass extinction in Earth's history has been associated with large-scale geological events. Volcanic activity, sea level change, atmospheric disruption, and supercontinent formation is one of the most geologically disruptive events possible. Life adapts. It always has. But adaptation requires time, and mass extinctions are the price paid for not having enough of it. Before we witness the final breath of complex life on Earth, take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. It helps us bring more of these incredible cosmic timelines to you. In 250 million years, life on Earth is still fundamentally biology as we know it. Carbon-based, water-dependent, oxygen-breathing. The specific organisms are completely unrecognizable to us, but the mechanisms are the same. DNA, evolution, food webs, predators, and prey. But the Sun is now roughly 250 million years older, and the Sun over time is getting brighter. And that changing Sun is starting very slowly, very quietly to create a problem that no amount of biological adaptation can solve. Here is a fact about the Sun that most people do not know. It is not constant. The Sun is a main sequence star, and main sequence stars slowly increase in luminosity as they age. As hydrogen in the core is converted to helium, the core contracts, heats up, and the outer layers expand slightly, increasing the Sun's total energy output. Over the 4.5 billion years since the solar system formed, the Sun has increased in brightness by about 30%. It is currently increasing at a rate of roughly 1% every 100 million years. That does not sound like much, but over hundreds of millions of years, it becomes decisive. The first consequence begins around 300 to 500 million years from now. And it is not what you would expect. You might expect the planet to get hotter first, but the first thing that happens is the plants die. Here is why. As the Sun gets brighter, it slightly warms the planet. This slight warming speeds up a chemical process called silicate weathering. Rocks containing silicate minerals react with carbon dioxide and water to form carbonates. As the planet warms, this weathering process accelerates, pulling carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere faster than volcanic activity can replenish it. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has been declining for hundreds of millions of years as a result of this process. Today, it is around 420 parts per million. High by recent standards, but actually low by the standards of most of Earth's history. 500 million years ago, carbon dioxide levels were probably 10 to 20 times higher. The problem is that plants need carbon dioxide. Photosynthesis is at its core the process of pulling carbon dioxide out of the air and turning it into sugar using sunlight. Most plants on Earth today use what is called the C3 photosynthesis pathway, and they need a minimum carbon dioxide concentration of about 150 parts per million to survive. Around 300 to 600 million years from now, atmospheric carbon dioxide will fall below that threshold. First the trees go, then the grasses, and most flowering plants. Some plants use a more efficient photosynthesis pathway, C4, that can function at carbon dioxide concentrations as low as 10 parts per million. These plants will hold on longer, but eventually even they cannot survive. When plants die, everything that eats plants dies. When herbivores die, carnivores die. The food chain does not partially collapse. It collapses from the bottom completely, systematically, and permanently. No complex animal life survives this. There will be no dramatic extinction event, no asteroid, no supervolcano, no mass die-off in a geological instant. It will be a slow fade played out over millions of years. Ecosystems will simplify. Megafauna will disappear first, then smaller animals, then insects, then the last multicellular organisms unable to sustain themselves without the carbon base that plants have always provided. The oxygen in Earth's atmosphere was put there by life. That is not a metaphor. It is a literal fact of planetary chemistry. Before photosynthetic organisms evolved, roughly 4 billion years ago, Earth's atmosphere contained almost no free oxygen. The Great Oxidation event, when cyanobacteria started releasing oxygen as a metabolic byproduct, fundamentally transformed this planet. It was, by some measures, the largest environmental catastrophe in Earth's history for the organisms alive at the time. Oxygen is chemically reactive and toxic to many anaerobic life forms. Most life at that time died, but from the survivors, all complex life, including us, eventually descended. The oxygen we breathe today exists because living things, mostly plants and photosynthetic marine organisms, continuously produce it. Take away the photosynthesis, and you take away the oxygen supply. As the carbon dioxide crisis kills off plant life between 300 and 600 million years from now, the oxygen production rate drops. But oxygen does not disappear instantly. There is a large existing reservoir in the atmosphere, currently about 21% of the total. It takes time for chemical reactions and biological respiration to consume it. However, without photosynthesis replenishing the supply, the oxygen levels will decline. Over millions of years, the timescale is uncertain, but models suggest somewhere between 600 million and 1 billion years from now, atmospheric oxygen drops to levels too low for complex aerobic life. Any animal life that has somehow survived the collapse of plant food chains would face this final atmospheric barrier. Without sufficient oxygen, aerobic respiration cannot sustain complex multicellular organisms with high metabolic demands. By approximately 800 million to 1 billion years from now, the atmosphere is back to something closer to what it was before the Great Oxidation event. Low in oxygen, increasingly dominated by other gases. The complex biosphere, 500 million years in the making, has been undone. What remains? Microbes, some photosynthetic, some not. Extremophiles in hydrothermal vents, chemolithotrophs, organisms that derive energy from chemical reactions in rocks rather than from sunlight. The deep biosphere, which extends kilometers into the crust, persists. Earth is not dead, not yet. It is back to where it started, a microbial world. A world that looks from space nothing like the blue and green planet we know. Complex life may be gone, but the planet's most violent days are still ahead. Click the video on your screen to witness the boiling of the oceans and the final death of the sun, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode.